Hi, welcome to another episode of the Just-in-Time Web Show with Lora Diaz. That's me, and I'm really excited to bring a topic to you that's close to home for all of us foster parents, and that is the grief and loss that we feel when a foster child leaves our home, and even how it affects the other children in the home. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this today with our guest, and that is Dania Guzman, and she is a foster family advocate from the CBC of Central Florida and an adoptive and former foster parent herself. But before we go into our conversation, I had a few announcements I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, we have recently posted a few videos on the website, and you know that website is located at www.jitfl.com, and that's short for Just in Time Florida. And you can search and find those new videos posted either by going to our directories and looking under the topical listing, and you can find many training videos there listed by topic, or you can also find the new ones under the announcements where it says just posted. We've posted the life skills training on nutrition, which is a great opportunity to talk to your youth about making good nutritional decisions and how to read labels and what foods to purchase. So I hope you'll enjoy that training. And also the new independent living legislation video we did with DCF that talks to you about what to do with those children who are turning 18 in your care and all the changes this legislation has that impacts them. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you Dania and get started with our topic today. Welcome, Dania.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. It's my pleasure.
So, you know, Dania, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I'm out there talking in the streets and I tell people about foster parenting or that I'm a foster parent, the first thing that people always say to me is, oh, I could never do that. It's just, I can't imagine getting bonded to a child, attached to them, and then having them leave. Do you get that a lot too?
Absolutely. I think probably the biggest fear or the biggest showstopper for most people. They fear that the most.
Yeah, and I understand, Dania, that you also teach foster parents in your local like Pride MAP training class, and you kind of go over loss and grief with them in the class, right?
That is correct. We actually teach them that not only do they have to understand loss and understand whether or not they have been able to process their own losses in the past before they became foster parents or adoptive parents, but we try to train them in how to become loss experts. So they know how to move forward and how to help our children through their own loss.
I know it's probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with myself as a foster parent, that very first placement that ends up leaving your home, and you just have to just deal with the mixed emotions, I would say, because in my personal case, I was happy she was getting reunified and I had a relationship with the mom, but on the same token, this is the first time I had taken an infant in and cared for her, and you know, the up all night and the bonding and when they're learning to smile at you, and then when they leave, it is such a loss and mixed emotions. And I think that a lot of foster parents really truly grieve this transition when they go home, or when they, you know, either reunification, they may be going to a relative placement, they may be going to another foster family to be joined with siblings, whatever the case may be, or even into an adoption transition. It is a real true loss for them. And so what I was hoping is you could give our foster parents out there some tips and some of the things that you teach in helping them to deal with it. And particularly, you know, how to prepare the child for the transition and the leaving, and also the other children in the home.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, and part of the things that we teach in Pride in our current training for new foster parents is that they should write out a plan or a letter. And this is something that I would encourage even existing foster parents to do, because it keeps you focused. Maybe writing a letter of what your goal is and why you're doing what you're doing. And then putting that letter in a very safe place. It helps when you are in that emotional stage of going through some type of grieving or understanding that maybe that child will be reunited after you've had them for a while. It's always going to be painful. I don't think that there is a cure or a miracle cure to not feel. We want our foster parents and our adoptive parents to love these children as if they were their own. So it's normal that they are going to hurt when that time comes for that child to go back home or go to a relative. But in writing that letter, it should hopefully help them establish the reason why they're doing this to begin with, which hopefully, again, is with the goal of helping the children heal, helping the children feel better, building their self-esteem, bringing them up to date in any delays that they may have, and completely investing on the welfare of this child. So when that time comes for them to go back home or to go back with a family member, and they're in pain, they can actually look at this letter and see that that was the intention all along.
Right.
And it helps. It doesn't take the pain away. It really doesn't. But it helps to understand that you're somehow achieving the goal that you set out to go and do. Communication, I have to say, is absolutely essential in not only being part of the team that you're working with through the process of a reunification or a case plan for a child, and understanding the different stages, which family member may be coming close to taking that child, which steps have the biological parents maybe completed of the case plan. So you have a better understanding of times and things of that nature also helps. And a lot of communication in the home, preparing the children before the children come home, sharing with them the children, your existing children in the home, sharing with them the child that's coming in, and explaining them that it's more than likely a temporary situation and they're going to be there for a while, and speaking to them in their level at their developmental stage, depending on the age of your children in the house at the time, is very helpful. It helps them understand that when it does come, it's not a surprise, it's not a shock. Besides, it helps you as the parent as well, helps through that grieving. It's amazing what that does. It's almost like therapy. You get to talk about it with your family and your loved ones in order to make sure that it works the way that it's supposed to work.
I agree. I think sometimes, Dania, one of the most difficult times that we feel this is when we are surprised by it, when it happens and we didn't quite feel like we knew it was coming. But like you said, when you are communicating with everybody and you're part of the process, hopefully that next stage when they move on to the reunification or they move on to that relative or whatever the case may be, because you were involved with that process, it's more of a natural transition. And like you said, you're always going to grieve. That child became your child and you became very attached to them. But at the same time, you're part of that process of making the decisions and advocating for the child and knowing, hopefully, that whatever this transition is when they do leave you, that it is the right thing and that you can feel good about the part that you played in it for this child. Would you agree?
I completely agree. I think that the more engaged that our foster parents become in the case, the more active part of a role that they take into the entire process of being a professional part of the team that they work with, the easier that it becomes, or it's not easier. It's hard for me to use the word easier because I don't think it's ever easy, but it's the best way to avoid it from becoming a surprise, like you said. Can it happen? Yes. Does it happen? It still happens. Not as often as it used to. But the best way as a foster parent to prevent it from happening is taking that active role. Here, the CBC of Central Florida is working very, very hard to create or build relationships between the biological families and the foster families. We believe in a family fostering another family. It's not just the child, in essence. And by doing so, then you don't feel that loss, because hopefully you get to build that relationship with the family who's going to be taking that child. And it helps you maintain a relationship even past the time where that child is no longer in your care. we have a lot of success stories that way, but we are realistic. It doesn't always happen. It's it's the goal. It would be the ideal situation for all children for their welfare, but it's not always the situation. And unexpected changes and unexpected transitions can also happen.
I agree. The families that I communicate with that built a really good co-parenting relationship with the biological family still see the children often after they're reunified, and the parent actually uses them as a support system. So when they need a babysitter or they need to go away, or that foster family is still involved in helping and seeing that child, and that of course is going to diminish that loss and grief because they're still in contact, they're still seeing them. Like you said, it's not in all cases, but I think if we as foster parents can really try to build those relationships with the biological family and even the extended family, the relatives, in case they go that way, hopefully we can continue that contact, can make us feel good about that transition, and also to maintain contact and minimize the grief and the trauma that we go through when they leave our home.
Correct. I agree 100%. And I think that it's also important to remember that we are only human. There's only so much we can do. And there are times in which those relationships are just not there. And as much as we may try, they're just not possible for safety reasons, for security reasons, for maybe the inability of communicate with that other family. That can happen. And when things like that arise, I think it's very important and helpful to create live books and create memories that are going to go on not only with the child, but for ourselves. Our children that live in the house and that stay behind will remember that child that left, and they will eventually get older and ask, hey, what was the name, or what happened to that child? And I think it's important to keep record of those things because it gives our children some closure, and it helps them overcome the loss that they have experienced, as well as it gives us time, and memories to go back to and look at albums or look at pictures or videos that we may also have recorded. So that's also a helpful tool.
I think that's a great idea. I heard of a foster family who really did that well, and kept pictures of every child that came into their home and really good scrapbook memories, and shared those frequently with their children in their home. So like you said, so it reminds them, and they also would take pictures of the family when they were reunified so they could make that connection for their children. And look, this is when little Johnny got to go home to his parents. So when they start to have those feelings of missing those children, kind of celebrate the event that took place. I think that's a fantastic idea. Dania, I was just thinking that the work that we've been doing in the transitions, actually, I think that plays a big part into this feeling of loss and grief too. Would you agree, where if we really advocate for the transition plans to be done at the time the children are leaving our home, that could help to minimize this and create that little bit of time period when the children are leaving us and going home, especially even for the other children in the home, to get used to them being away a little bit more?
I completely agree. I couldn't agree with you more, Laura. As a matter of fact, I am very excited, and I'm going to share this with you. Here in Orange County, we're working very diligently with the DCF, or the Department of Children and Families attorneys, as well as with the judges here in Orange County for family court. And we have a team working together on creating some transitional plans that could be utilized in court to enforce the fact that the children get the right and the proper time for a transition. That makes it easier for everyone involved in that transition, because there's so much loss in the process. It's not just the foster parent, it's not just the existing children in the home, but that child who moves from here to there is also going through a loss. So in order to avoid that, the best plan, the best idea would always be able to have that transitional period to allow that child to have some closure, to say goodbye to their friends at school, to take phone numbers, to have a goodbye party, say goodbye to extended family. I mean, there is so much to it. that in the past has not been looked at or taken into consideration, given the lack of information that we had on the long-term effect, I believe. But now that we do, I think that everybody should try to advocate for that for the child that they have in their home. And that transition doesn't have to be a 6-week. It doesn't have to be a 2-month. I mean, a transitional period can be 48 hours. It can be 3 days, depending on the child's needs, the child's stage. It could just be a day, really, depending on the child's need and what's happening at the time. But I certainly think it's important that we all take everybody that's going through this loss into consideration, because there's a lot of steps to this process.
You're right. I think it is a case by case, because if you've had a biological family who's been doing the visits and you follow the normal kind of protocol where it starts out with the supervised visits, then they go to unsupervised, and they go to weekends, and you kind of know it's going to come up, you sort of have had a little bit of a transition. Of course, you still want to plan that in for the time the reunification happens so you can get everything together and, like you said, allow for school things or saying goodbye or, a goodbye party and things like that. But the ones that I think we have to be a little bit more thoughtful of this is, say, for instance, when there's a relative that's identified late in the case and maybe they don't live locally. So the child has not had the opportunity to visit with them, and we haven't gone through that process of, little by little letting go. And I think that's when we really need to be advocating for those transition plans and allowing ourselves to work through it and work with the other children in the home to let them know, hey, this is what's going to be happening with this child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another suggestion I want to make, I mean, that we are very blessed to live in this time and era, for lack of better words, where everything is electronical, or everything is, through the internet. There's so many ways and tools that we can utilize in those cases where that child is going to be moving across the states. Using video webcams, using FaceTime, using
Skype,
texting.
yeah.
There's so many tools available that I would encourage every foster parent that in the process, again, building that relationship with that family that's going to be taking over this child's life, that they utilize all of these different methods to not only build a relationship with them, but then be able to continue that relationship with the child as well. Because it does help have some closure. It does help in that process of grief.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And if you can get the other family to stay connected with you and they could send you pictures and updates on the children, again, helps so much through that grieving process when they leave the home. Dania, this brings up another thought and a question that I had for you. Sometimes I've heard foster families say, when a child leaves and they're going through this grieving process, they say, I need to take a break, sometimes, a while before they'll consider taking a new placement. And then I've had other families say, I'm just going to jump in and take the next one, and hopefully the new one is going to take all my energy and focus from, the sadness and the loss I'm feeling. What advice do you give to foster families about that?
It's interesting you ask. I have actually been in both shoes. And I think anybody that deals with children or with people in general can tell or can relate to every person is different. And I've had cases in which one child leaves, and yes, it's painful and it's hurtful, but I have to jump right back in because my focus is to help, the children that are in need at the time. And there was one specific occasion in which I needed almost a year. It took almost a year for me to say, I can't, I just need to take my time. I need to put my family back together. I need to recoup. And there is no wrong answer. Everybody knows themselves and their families better. I think they need to assess the damages and the losses that they have encountered through the family, depending, of course, on the length of the relationship, depending on the depths that relationship went. It may go one way or it may go another. There's really no wrong or right answer. I do, however, wish to advise every foster parent out there that it is okay to ask for help. Sometimes the grief is too much, and sometimes it's a lot of pain, and it takes longer to recover than other times. And it's okay. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you incapable. It doesn't make you it doesn't make you any less.
It means you really care, doesn't it?
You just want to make sure that you're good, strong, well, and not just you, but everyone in the house to be able to go through it again and to be able to help someone else and another family out, or to be able to help another child out. And it does take a lot of energy and a lot of work. I mean, this job takes everything. It becomes a lifestyle, becomes everything. It takes everything out of us. We have to put our thoughts, our energy, our time, our money. It becomes our life. So it's okay if you just need to take a break. That is perfectly okay to say, I need a month, or I need 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a year before you can place another child. I need to get through this. My family needs to get through this. And that is perfectly okay to do.
I couldn't agree more. And the little advice I would give would be to communicate that with your licensing or placement staff and make sure they understand that you need some time. Because me personally, I have to tell you, the minute the phone rings and they say, oh, but Lora, we have 10 children on the placement list, then the guilt sets in, and I would be more likely to say yes when maybe I'm not ready. So I can tell you, I in the past have had to say, please, I'll let you know when I'm ready to start taking the calls, so that you truly can have that time and not feel pressured or guilty for not doing it. Because like you said, it is a healing process, and not just for you, for everybody in the home.
Absolutely. And I think I'm guilty of that too, Laura. So don't feel bad. I think that everyone who does this does it because they care.
Exactly.
And that's awesome. I mean, if we didn't care, we wouldn't be doing it. So I think we all can be capable of falling into that guilt trip that goes in with placements and with that phone call. But we do need to assess, and we do need to make sure that we are ready to give everything to the next child. And in order to be able to do what's right for that next child and its placement, we need to make sure that we are taken care of first.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that statement. You just need to be there and ready to give it 100%. So, well, do you have any other thoughts or tips or comments that you'd like to share with our viewers on this topic?
I do. The only other thing that I can think of that I want to encourage foster parents who may feel they need to is if in the event that you're ever going through that grief process and it's just too much to bear, because again, we're human, and it's just too much to go through, please speak up. I'm sure that your CVC would be more than willing to give you the support that you need in order for you to get through it. Sometimes it might take therapy, and it's okay. It's okay to feel that you lost someone that you love so much as your own child. And it feels exactly the same. It feels exactly the same as losing one of your own if you have loved them and cared for them the way that you should have from the very beginning. So sometimes I think that to some people, it's a taboo to feel or to ask for help, because it's almost an acknowledgement of weakness,
right,
or fear of being judged, and no one is going to judge you, and no one has the right to judge you, and it is not because you're weak, but because you love that you may need more help. So I just want to make sure that every foster parent out there understands that it's okay if they do need additional help and additional supports to reach out to your licensing agent, reach out to your CVC and ask for those supports. Because we want every family to be as healthy and as whole as they possibly can be in order to help the children that are in need.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dania. It's so true. And, I hope that the foster parents who watch this show are getting that message loud and clear, because, like I said before, we have been in your shoes, and the first time to me is always the worst. But every single time a child leaves, we all, a little piece of us leaves with them. So definitely to reach out when you need help, and not to feel that it's anything, any kind of weakness. It's definitely who we are, and caring, giving people, and it's so true. So, well, we're about to run out of time here, but thank you so much, Dania, for joining us today and, sharing this information and what you've been through, your experiences. And I hope that a lot of foster families are going to, to gain a lot from this training.
It's my pleasure, Laura. I'm glad that I was able to help.
Okay, so everybody, I've just got a few things to wrap up the show today. First of all, you know that we are always looking for your ideas for topics, new guests. If you know somebody who would be a great guest for us here on the web show, let us know. Topics and suggestions, your comments. We love your feedback. So please go to our Facebook page, or you can email us at qpiflorida@usf.edu. And we love to hear from you. Thank you again, Dania Guzman, for joining us today on this topic. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Just in Time Web Show.